Let's talk about color and how it's used in design, specifically in application to designing certain flyers or business cards or really anything, even app icons, which we'll be getting into sooner rather than later. Color theory is really a science and art unto itself, which some can build an entire career on. There are people who consult brands about colors, or even just choosing colors for artists. That's an actual job. Knowing the effects that color can have on people is incredibly valuable expertise that designers can master and offer to their clients in addition to their technical skills with the design suites that you guys already have. There's a lot to color, though. You would think it's a little simple, you guys have been looking at color your whole life. Not really the case, at least not now. Something as simple as changing an exact hue or the saturation of a color can evoke a completely different feeling just from looking at it. Cultural differences can also compound those effects, and a hue that's happy and uplifting in one country might be really sad and depressing in another, and you really have to consider that. So let's start out with the primary colors. Most of you would say that they are red, blue, and yellow, and I am here to tell you that you are incorrect. We've kind of mentioned this in class before, but I've talked about different color spaces and how to set up your document in Vectornator according to that color space. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and these are the four colors used in printing. Anything that's printed, whether it be on paper, on a billboard, a business card, whatever, it uses a CMYK color space. A printing machine creates images by combining CMYK colors to varying degrees with actual physical ink that is usually more expensive than gold these days. This is known as subtractive mixing. All colors start as white, and then each layer of ink reduces the initial brightness to create the preferred color. When all colors are mixed together, they create pure black. CMYK is good for any project that will be physically printed and not viewed on a screen. So business cards, stationery, billboards, flyers, brochures, t-shirts, product packaging, those are best for CMYK. RGB is red, green, and blue, and this is the color space for digital images. A light source within a device can create any color you would need by mixing red, green, and blue, and varying their intensity. And this is known as additive mixing. All colors begin as black darkness, and then red, green, and blue light is added on top of each other to brighten it and create the perfect pigment. When red, green, and blue light is mixed together at equal intensity, they create pure white. Now, designers can control aspects like saturation, vibrancy, and shading and all that, and we'll get into those in a minute, but you should be using RGB color space if we're doing a web or app design for icons, buttons, graphics, or online logos, ads, banners for websites, a website itself, infographics, photographs for a website. Those are best for RGB. Now let's break these down. Red. First off, red is a hot color. It's associated with fire and violence and warfare. It's also associated with love and passion. In history, it's been associated with the devil and Cupid, and red can actually have a physical effect on people, raising blood pressure and respiration rates. It's why you don't see a lot of red rooms in houses, because it causes anxiety. However, it's also been shown to enhance human metabolism too. Red can be associated with anger, certainly, but it's also associated with importance. Think of the red carpet at awards shows and other celebrity events. Red can also indicate danger, and that's the reason stoplights and stop signs are red, and that warning labels are often red. Outside the Western world, however, red has different associations. For example, in China, red is the color of prosperity and happiness. It can also be used to attract good luck, which is why many Eastern cultures wear red on their wedding days. In South Africa, however, red is the color of mourning. Red can also be associated with ye olde communism. So there's that. In design, red can be a powerful accent color. It can have an overwhelming effect if it's used too much in designs, especially in its purest form. It's a great color to use when power or passion want to be portrayed in design. But red can also be very versatile, and with brighter versions being more energetic and darker shades being more powerful and elegant and regal. Yellow is often considered the brightest and most energizing of the warm colors. It's associated with happiness and sunshine, as most of you can probably guess. It can also be associated with deceit and cowardice. Yellow can also be associated with hope, as is seen in some countries where yellow ribbons are displayed by families who have loved ones at war. Yellow can also be associated with danger, though not as strongly as red. It's why you see caution, wet floor signs in yellow rather than red. Red would make you think that your life is on the line rather than just falling. But in some countries, yellow has a very different connotation. In Egypt, for example, yellow is for mourning. In Japan, it represents courage. In India, it's a color for merchants most often. In your designs, bright yellow can lend a sense of happiness and cheerfulness. Softer yellows are commonly used as gender-neutral colors for babies rather than blue or pink in other young children. Light yellows give a more calm feeling of happiness than a bright yellow. Dark yellow and gold-hued yellows can sometimes look antique and can be used in designs where a sense of permanence is desired. And that's actually one of the reasons why one of our colors is gold. If you look at how it's portrayed in our design stuff around school, that shade of gold looks almost antique, a little buffed, a little old, because we are an institution that has been around for a long time, and we appeal to an older demographic, because at the end of the day, you guys are the ones who attend this school, your parents are the ones who foot the bill. So our last primary color is blue, or cyan, like I said. Blue is often associated with sadness in the English language. Blue can also be used extensively to represent calmness and responsibility. Light blues can be refreshing and friendly, like the Twitter logo, or dark blues are more strong and reliable. Blue is also associated with peace and has spiritual and religious connotations in many cultures and tradition. For example, the Virgin Mary is generally depicted wearing blue robes. If you've noticed the statues that we have sitting around the building, she's always wearing blue in some way, shape, or form. Now, the meaning of blue is widely affected depending on the exact shade and hue, but in design, the exact shade of blue you select will have a huge impact on how your designs are generally perceived. Light blues are very relaxed and calming, but bright blues can be energizing and refreshing. Dark blues like navy are excellent for corporate sites or designs where strength and reliability are important. And again, that goes back to our color scheme here at school. We have navy and we have gold, two very strong, permanent colors that are based in antiquity and reliability. It's good for a school. So now we're getting into some secondary colors, and secondary colors are when two primary colors are combined to create an all-new color. So, for example, orange. Orange combines yellow and red to create this lovely little hue that is actually one of my favorite colors. Orange itself is vibrant and energetic. In its muted forms, it can be associated with the earth and with fall and autumn. Because of its association with the changing seasons, orange can represent change and movement in general. Orange is also strongly associated with creativity. Because orange is associated with the fruit of the same name, it can be associated with health and vitality as well. But in design, orange commands attention without being as overpowering as red. It's often considered more friendly and inviting, and very much less in your face. It's a nice in-between. On the cooler side of things, we have green, which is another secondary color that you get by combining yellow and blue, or cyan. Green is a very down-to-earth color, no pun intended. It can represent new beginnings and growth and renewal and abundance. Alternatively, green can also represent envy or jealousy, or even a lack of experience. Green has many of the same calming attributes that blue has, but it incorporates some of the energy of yellow. In design, green can have a balancing and harmonizing effect, and it's very stable in a design. It's appropriate for designs related to wealth, stability, renewal, and nature. Brighter greens are more energizing and vibrant, while olive greens are more representative of the natural world. Dark greens are the most stable and representative of affluence. And finally, we have purple, or violet, which is our last secondary color, and you get this by combining magenta and cyan, or red and blue. In ancient times, the dyes used for creating purple hues were extracted from snails. Yeah, I know, it's weird. And they were very expensive, so only royals and the very wealthy could afford them. So because it's a combination of red and blue, it takes on some of the attributes of both. It's also associated with creativity and imagination. In Thailand, for example, purple is the color of mourning for widows specifically. Dark purples are traditionally associated with wealth and royalty, while lighter purples, like lavender, are considered more romantic and soft. In design, however, dark purples can give a sense of wealth and luxury. Light purples are softer and associated with spring, romance, youth, love, things like that. And lastly, we have our neutrals, and neutrals are crucial. I can't say this enough. In every design scheme you will always have to have at least one or two neutrals, not counting pure white and pure black. Neutral colors often serve as the backdrop in design. They're commonly combined with brighter accent colors like the ones that I mentioned earlier, but they can also be used on their own in designs. It can create sophisticated layouts. The meanings and impressions of neutral colors are much more affected by the colors that surround them than are the warm and cool colors. Now, black is the strongest of the neutral colors. On the positive side, it's commonly associated with power, elegance, formality, mourning, things like that, at least for us. On the negative side, it can be associated with evil and mystery. Black is the traditional color of mourning in many Western countries. It's also associated with rebellion in some cultures and is associated with Halloween and the occult. Black, when used as more than an accent or for text, is commonly used in edgier designs, as well as in very elegant designs. It can be either conservative or modern, traditional or unconventional, depending on the colors it's combined with. In design, black is commonly used for typography and other functional parts because of its neutrality. Black can make it easier to convey a sense of sophistication and mystery in a design. But pure black is very harsh on the eyes. If you drag your sliders to the bottom corner or all the way down and get a pitch black shade, that's harsh. That specific shade of black is not the same as other shades of black. There are thousands and thousands of shades of black. I strongly recommend against using pure black in any design ever. It can be almost distracting to have a black hole in the middle of your composition. Instead, pitch it a little bit more towards gray or the base color that you're working from in your color slider. Just give it a bit of a tinge of something else to give it a bit more dimension and visibility. Now, white is at the opposite end of the spectrum from black, obviously, but like black, it can work well with just about any other color. White is often associated with purity, cleanliness, and virtue, and in the West, white is commonly worn by brides on their wedding day. It's also associated with the healthcare industry, especially with doctors, nurses, and dentists. That's why they often wear white coats. White is associated with goodness, and angels are often depicted in white. In much of the East, however, white is actually associated with death and mourning. In China and Japan, at funerals, people wear white. In India, however, it's traditionally the only color widows are allowed to wear. In design, white is generally considered a neutral backdrop that lets other colors in a design have a larger voice. It can help to convey cleanliness and simplicity, though, and is popular in very minimalist designs. Like any of the advertisements you see from Apple, you'll see a great deal of white. Gray is a neutral color, generally considered to be on the cool end of the color spectrum. It can sometimes be considered moody or depressing, and light grays can be used in place of white in some designs, and dark grays can be used in place of black. Gray is generally conservative and formal, but it can also be quite modern. It's sometimes considered a color of mourning, but it's most commonly used in corporate designs where formality and professionalism are key. It can be a very sophisticated color. Pure grays are shades of black, though many other grays may have blues or browns mixed into them. Brown is associated with the earth, wood, and stone. It's a completely natural color and a warm neutral. Now, brown can be associated with dependability and reliability, with steadfastness and earthiness. It can also be considered dull, sadly, depending on the brown. This is why a lot of nature companies, places that sell mountain bikes or hiking equipment, have brown as a part of their branding. In design, brown is commonly used as a background color. It can also be seen in wood textures and sometimes even in stone textures if they're overlaid properly. It helps bring a feeling of warmth and wholesomeness to designs, and it's sometimes used in its darkest forms as a replacement for black, either in backgrounds or in typography. Now, as for beige and tan, beige is somewhat unique in the color spectrum, as it can take on cool or warm tones depending on the colors surrounding it. It has the warmth of brown and the coolness of white, and like brown, it is sometimes seen as rather dull. It's a conservative color in most instances and is usually reserved for backgrounds. It can also symbolize piety. If you've ever been in Blessing Hospital, look at the walls next time. Look at the floor. Everything in that building is beige. Drives me nuts. But again, it's very neutral. Beige will take on the characteristics of colors around it, meaning it has little effect in itself on the final impression a design gives when used with other colors. So always keep that in mind when using beige. Ivory and cream are also sophisticated colors much like black, with some of the warmth of brown and a lot of the coolness of white. They're generally quiet and can evoke a sense of history. Ivory is a calm color with some of the pureness associated with white, though it is a bit warmer. In design, ivory can lend a sense of elegance and calm to a site or design. When combined with earthy colors like peach or brown or even navy blues, it can take on an earthy quality. It can also be used to lighten darker colors without the stark contrast of using white. And again, contrast is a huge part of design, so always be careful when using plain white or plain black. Try to find somewhere in the middle if you can. Now, knowing what colors are, that's all well and good. That's great. Fantastic. Love that for you. But there are some trippy things about color that we have to discuss, and one of those things is called color constancy. And if you don't have a headache yet, this is when that headache might start kicking in, and I am sorry. I want you to look at this shoe. What color is this shoe? Just take a minute, talk amongst yourselves, pause the video if you need to. What color is this shoe? Is it turquoise and gray? Or is it pink and white? Hold on to that for a second, because what color is this stupid dress? You've probably seen this dress on the internet. This was a whole thing in like 2014 or something. I remember seeing it everywhere, and this periodically happens every once in a while on the internet as well. This is a common argument, and it all relates to color constancy. But what color is this dress? Is it blue and black, or is it white and gold? Do you know? Seriously, pause the video. Consider it for a minute. Really talk to each other. What color is it? Who sees what? Color constancy is the ability to perceive colors of objects invariant to the color of the light source or things around it. Every color you see is dictated by the colors around it, even if you think it isn't. It is. Congratulations. You have fallen into the trap of all artists and color theorists. Color lies to you. Your brain lies to you. Color is not what you think you see. This stupid shoe is turquoise and gray, but some people think it looks pink and white. Now, usually the people who see it as turquoise and gray have no idea how people can see this as pink and white. It makes no sense. And honestly, vice versa. Someone who sees it as pink and white will not be able to see this as turquoise and gray. It just doesn't make sense. Your brain looks at the space around it. The lighting in this picture is poor, to be fair. It's pretty awful. It's a really dark background with, it looks like a pretty harsh flash from a cell phone, and not a great cell phone. And with this dress, the light around it is ridiculously bright, and the background has hues of white and yellow. The lighting, the background, everything around an object in a photo, or even just plain in front of you, influences the color that you're looking at. Take this photo for example. You see two arrows pointing to two spots on this cube. Now, the bottom of this green square on the left is the exact same shade as the red square on the right. how in the world does that make sense? Well, the reason it makes sense is because of complementary color constancy. A common misconception with color is that if you want to darken a shade, like if you want to take fire engine red and make it dark red, like burgundy, you add black. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. Instead, you would add green. Green is the complement of red, meaning that it is perfectly across the color wheel from said color. It is its opposite in every single way. Similarly, blue's complement would be orange. It makes no sense, I know, just hang on. Yellow has a complement in purple. And yellow and purple are probably the most difficult colors to blend together to get the proper shades that you want, but it's still true nonetheless. If you add purple to yellow, you will darken that yellow naturally instead of making it muddy yellow-black, because then it looks kind of nasty. But this picture with these two cubes, notice that the left one is bathed in red light and the right one is bathed in green light. But because this left cube is overlaid with red versus the right cube being overlaid with green, those two colors cancel each other out for the red and green spots, creating the exact same color. Now in this picture, we have a green cylinder that is sitting on a checkerboard tile floor, and we have A and we have B. I'm so sorry, but A and B are the exact same shade of gray. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There's nothing I can do because this is just the truth. A and B are the exact same shade of gray. They don't look it, do they? A looks a lot darker than B. Why is that? One, B is in a shadow, so it's surrounded by darkness already. Also, the squares directly around B are dark gray versus the A tile, which has light gray squares around it. That visual contrast creates an interesting dichotomy in your mind between what you're actually seeing and what you should be seeing. And here's an example of those two things connected. You can clearly see it is the exact same shade of gray, but it doesn't look like it. That's color constancy. What color are these strawberries? Can anybody tell me? Are they red? What are they? Well, guess what? They're turquoise. These strawberries are actually turquoise. I'm so sorry. Because this picture is overlaid with a blue map, it changes the hue of every single color beneath it. It's not like just adding a film of color over top of a photo. This has fundamentally changed the actual color of these strawberries. Your mind knows exactly what color those strawberries are supposed to be. You have never seen a turquoise strawberry in your life, or at least I hope you haven't. You know it's supposed to be red. You're telling yourself, wow, look at those red strawberries. They're not red, they're turquoise. I'm so sorry. Have I ruined your life yet? Again, if you didn't have a headache before, look away, children. Guard your eyes. Let's talk about something called vibrating colors. Vibrating colors are the worst thing ever. On God, if you ever turn in vibrating colors as a project, unintentionally or not, that's a problem. We're gonna chat about that because I will open that file and I will instantly get a migraine. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to your viewers. Don't do that to yourself. Okay? Vibrating colors occur when you have two colors which are high in saturation, which means they're very vibrant and very bright. Two high saturation colors stacked either next to each other or directly on top of each other. Provided that the saturation is high enough, it can cause something that's almost a vibrating effect. For example, this word, lorem. This hurts a little bit. The background is so violently red-orange, whereas the letters are blue, which are the complement of orange, but it hurts to look at. Because these colors are so highly saturated, it's just, it's painful. God, I hate it. Make it stop. This vibrating effect is caused because if you guys have ever looked at the sun for a hot minute and then looked away, you can still see the after image of that sun. Call it seeing spots or seeing stars, but really it's an after image left in your vision by the brightness of that light source. Colors can do the exact same thing if they are bright enough. That's what causes vibrating colors. your mind retains an after image of what it's supposed to be looking at in conjunction with the background that the thing is sitting on. And it's like your brain can't fully rectify what it's looking at. Oh, this one hurts. Oh, I'm recording this and I'm not looking at this image. I hate it. It's red and green. Again, complementary colors, total opposites, but really, really vibrant. And it hurts. Color constancy is so important in design because you have to know what it is so you know how to avoid it. Neutrals are a good way to avoid this. Never put colored text on a colored background, or if you do, drop the saturation, make one of them kind of muted or pastel or neutral. You can still retain a color, but it can't be like full non-stop saturation unless you just want to one-shot your audience. It's terrible. Don't do that. You should have maybe 1 or 2 bright colors in a color scheme of 5, for example. Let's say we have an off shade black, something that's not too stark of a contrast, more of a slate. We have a nice soft cream, and then we have a lavender and a rich yellow and maybe a brown toned gray. That's a nice color scheme. That's pretty. Even Gucci. They have muted greens and darker reds and golds. Nothing really bright, nothing highly saturated. It's lovely. You guys will really have to be aware of color and how it's used in the world when you go into designing these next few assignments that we do, and honestly, pretty much any assignment that we do after this. I will be looking for your understanding of color, and I will be the first to admit that this will not be something that any of you will necessarily master in the first go, and that is okay. Understanding color theory is something that people devote their lives to, in some cases, and some people can't see colors at all. That's a whole other can of worms that we're not getting into today. But colors ultimately have meanings. Think about the apps on your phone. Think about billboards that you see, or signs, or even business cards, the colors of this school and what they could mean. Every color has a specific reason for being there, and the reason is not usually because it looks nice. That should never be your reason. You should think about the meaning behind colors and what they stand for in our culture and in others, and how their saturation or brightness level can really affect the message you're trying to send to your audience. It all matters, and you have to take that into account when designing.